Get ready for a super fun episode.
If you are an entrepreneur and want to make a few $1 billion on a food concept, this is the episode for you. And if that's not you and you're super into food and bev, culture, we talk supplements, health and wellness. Like we talked about a lot of stuff with our friend Fred Hart, who is a must follow on LinkedIn. So
Indeed.
let us know.
He just came from EXPO West.
Yes.
So he's given us all the things, all the trends, breaking it down. And there are some, I know there's a lot of VCs listening, and there's a lot of kind of checklist of like, here's the companies and what they follow and what you need to invest in. So we really lay it out.
Yeah. Or it's a big picture, what to do as a brand and where things are going and how to be thinking about that. So not just in the details, and they're really pulling back. So lots to learn. So
if you like food, invest in food, know about food, eat food, you should listen.
Yeah. And give it a like while you're there eating your food.
For sure. Share it with somebody. All right. We'd love to know what you think.
Hey everyone, it's Chris.
And Kirsten.
Welcome to Good Thinking Weekly, the podcast where we discuss the best of the best in brands, marketing, and culture.
Thousands of people, top execs from the likes of Complex, Klaviyo, Walmart, Wall Street Journal, and LVMH tune in every single week.
We run a creative consultancy in Good Co, so we know what it takes to build a good brand.
Subscribe on YouTube, your favorite podcast app, and Good Thinking on Substack for more.
All right, let's dive in.
All right. Hi, and welcome to Good Thinking.
Hello, and welcome back, Fred.
Yes,
I
so happy
think
you're here.
Fred was one of our first guests ever on the podcast.
I'm honored.
Yeah.
It's good to be back.
Well, I mean, so now you're back, and we're better, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, right. And really excited to chat with you because you were just at EXPO West.
Hot off the press. I got all the trade show stomach still lingering with me, so I haven't let go. Yeah.
Yeah,
amazing.
That's another article right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think all of our viewers, readers know you, and we adore you. But you want to give a little intro to what you do, Fred?
Yeah, happy to. So my name's Fred Hart. I've been in the CPG and design space for my entire career, 15 years. I previously ran an agency for 10 years, built it up to 30 people with a keen focus on brand identity and packaging design. But what I really gained a passion for was understanding the businesses, particularly in CPG, and how design could help propel them forwards. I have spent an inordinate amount of time attending trade shows, spending time in my clients' universes, and really seeing and understanding what's next and building up an information advantage to help my clients, position themselves for the future. I started a consultancy 2 years ago and am independently working with a lot of great companies, both large stage, pre-revenue, but mostly growth. So that's a little bit about my background.
And you're killing it. You're killing it. Like in your work, in what you're sharing, LinkedIn, like just inspiring across the board.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're too kind. My mom clearly got to you.
Yeah. But somehow we're so like, and your mom and the New York Times. And I was like in tears. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so happy for his mom.
Yeah.
So, that's how much of a weird parasocial relationship I have with you through LinkedIn.
It's amazing. I mean, we all do it for our mothers and some of our fathers. And it's just nice. And it's a privilege, honestly, to have a parent that still really cares as if I were like 12 years old. Like I can do no wrong.
Mm-hmm. Adore that. Hi, Mom.
Yeah, exactly.
That is,
shout out to the moms.
That is a privilege.
Totally.
Yeah.
Shout out to the moms.
Yeah. All right. So drop it on us. Like what was the best thing? What was the worst thing? What was the biggest thing? Like you start what you want and we'll just
tell us everything.
On.
Yeah. Well, it's no surprise to anyone, I think, that's been paying attention to what's going on in the CPG industry. But I joked by calling EXPO West Protein West. It was unbelievable. There was so much talk, I think, at the end of 2025 about fiber being 2026's year.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't believe that. And EXPO West proved that to be true, in part because I think consumers just haven't necessarily been infiltrated in all categories or aisles, and there's a lot of room left to push protein into products. And we saw that at EXPO West in some really wild ways. I saw protein jello, protein puddings, protein pasta sauce, protein beverages out the wazoo, protein chips, protein popcorn, like protein coffee, you name it, it had protein in it. Some executions were much better than others. I did have some delicious things, but I think the industry has stopped asking why they would put protein in something and just focused on how to do it. And EXPO West is an echo chamber. The industry never looks like that, but you put everyone in one room and all of a sudden it's this hyperbolic environment that's pressure cooked to like just push trends forward. But you walk into a grocery store still today and protein is still novel. And that's why I think like we haven't even hit peak protein yet. We'll see if 2027 is peak at EXPO West. I think it will start to die down because there'll be enough players in the space that won't gain traction that you'll see them start to dissipate and lose out. But that was definitely like the big thing.
Peak protein. I mean, I feel like this is like,
that's my hot take.
Okay.
Yeah. We haven't
that's
even
a really
hit it
hot
yet.
take. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm here for it personally, but okay.
Yeah. So, again, like we saw some really interesting protein ramen, protein waffles, protein cheesecake, protein straws, protein rice, protein jam, protein ice cream. Like it was just unbelievable, but
just in everything.
Literally. Yeah. And beyond that, fiber did definitely have a presence this year. There was a ton of fiber and it's fighting to be the next protein, but hopefully it doesn't make the mistakes protein industry has. And right before Expo, Pepsi Frito-Lay made some big news. They launched a smart food subline called Fiber Pop, essentially like a Boom Chicka Pop type product, fortified with fiber. And I actually saw it in retail and tried it right before the trade show. Decent product. And then they had another one from Sun Chips, which is a high fiber subline. So you're seeing a lot of big food companies look at these trends and figure out sort of natural ways to incorporate them. And they're moving as fast as the emerging and entrepreneurial space.
Right.
Wow.
Which is kind of wild because that threatens a lot of the natural products ecosystem if big food is innovating finally as fast as the small guys.
Yeah, that's a great point. Fred, I want to go back to one thing that you said as far as the mistakes that the protein world has made and that fiber needs to look out for.
Yeah.
Give us the low-hanging fruit on that.
Well, I think the mistakes are one, again, not having an understanding of how this is actually providing value to a particular audience or creating any newness in an innovation, just simply figuring out how to do it. The how is not the hard part. The why is the most difficult version of that. And there's like a soda 2.0 wave that is crashing over. So we had Olipop and Poppy and Better For You soda, low sugar. They've also both really pulled back on the gut health and the prebiotic stories. Some hit with class action lawsuits. Really, consumers always wanted soda. And now they get it with like 5 grams of sugar and great taste. But now protein is trying to be the next big soda exit. So protein sodas were all over the show. And it's just quickly commoditizing itself if none of them really think about building brand or audience or story. I think David is such a good example in the protein bar space, which was so saturated to begin with. Yes, they had a product differentiator, but they had a unique story and all of them working super distinctive, ownable, and David doesn't even yell protein at you. We are in a protein arms race where most players are shouting the macro at you louder than anything else. And David has taken the reverse. And I think that a lot of the best brands at the trade show have realized that they need to stand on their own 2 feet, not on their macros. And so those are other mistakes I think some players are making in the protein world is like, if they've got 15 and their competitors will have 12, that should be an automatic win, but that's not how it works.
Right. That makes total sense. And what are you seeing from a consumer perspective? Like, what do you actually think people are looking for from protein? Like, I wrote about like biological dining being really big this year. Like, do you think that it's that everybody and their mother is strength training from menopause to, 15-year-olds and look maxing like all day long? Or what do you think is actually driving not just the protein, but then the fiber? Like, what is the actual behavior that if you were doing it right, you are tapping into?
It's such a good question. And there are so many different food tribes or communities that have different jobs to be done that protein serves them. One of my favorite examples that I like to point to is a company called Sturdy Sauce. So they have about 80 grams of protein in a jar of pasta sauce. When I first met them, I was like, who's eating this and why? Right. And
babies.
I'm immediately like, it's the gym bros that, whatever. And certainly that exists. They're buying protein pasta and they're buying protein pasta sauce. And some of them are even putting chicken on top of it. And they're just like, hitting 100 grams in a serving, something ridiculous. But that's a very small group. They were saying that moms in particular who are struggling to feed their kids convenient and nutritionally dense things love this because they don't actually have to cook any meat, which is time intensive and a whole nother thing. They can just pour it over any pasta that the kid likes. So easy way to give their kids protein, easy way to prepare, takes a lot of like, headache and turmoil out of that process. And then one other thing that was really interesting is some of these fitness enthusiasts that are drinking protein shakes, all the shakes are sweet, cookies and cream, vanilla, chocolate, etc. They found
This
that a
is
lot
my
of
problem.
consumers are kind of hijacking sturdy sauce and just heating it up almost like a tomato soup, but it's a high protein, it's savory, it hits a different palate, and thus like serves a real need in diversifying the flavors
Right.
that they're intaking. And so those are really interesting. So there are all sorts of different groups and dynamics. There was another bar at the trade show called Savory, SVRY, and all they make are savory flavored protein bars, a pizza flavored protein bar,
Sounds
coconut
delicious.
curry flavored protein bar. It is really weird, but there is a
No, I'm serious.
group of consumers that have unmet needs that are like, all I can get are these candy flavored things.
Right.
I can't
And Chris is one of them.
candy.
She's one of them.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
This is a real
and I
need.
don't like dessert.
We've unlocked something.
Yeah, a curry protein bar actually like sounds like truly like up my alley.
Amazing. And Kind had actually tried this years ago. They had done savory kind of nut bars. They couldn't make it scale, but I think an entrepreneurial brand that can slowly build awareness, community, right size audience, fit, all of this other stuff can eventually kind of get to a really interesting place.
That's fascinating. I like the pasta sauces make so much sense to me, and I'm in the curry bar. No, thank you.
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying is really interesting as far as like, okay, so here's what you don't do, learning from the proteins, really thinking about brand, and then layering on that entrepreneur, which seems to be really, really coming up and like really redefining what could happen in this space.
Totally. I mean, you're seeing also like protein ice cream be a real big thing right now, trying to be the new Halo Top. If Halo Top got consumers to kind of come to the brand because they wanted to eat the whole pint, and only, there's only 280 calories in the entire thing, and now you have ultimate permissibility. Great. Product wasn't always tasting wonderful. You had to let it sit and thaw. These protein ice creams are now finding a new avenue of permissibility. And there's a lot of different ways in. I've seen a couple of brands that are just using protein whey isolate and fortifying, off of their like milk or cream or even just water base, that are like more about the macros and less about the taste. But there's a company called Smearcase, SMEARCASE.
We really have to do a naming pod.
Yeah.
I know I'm name dropping here. Shame on me.
No, it's good.
Just trying to plug the
but
founders.
it's just the naming is so funny. Like it's just naming is such a challenge for brand.
And so these guys are basically using cottage cheese as the base for their high protein ice cream. And we know like cottage cheese is big and, flourishing on TikTok and all these things. And you just had a Good Culture exit for a couple $1 billion. So like, I think Smearcase is interesting. There's also another one called Char, which is a Greek yogurt base. So some companies are in the real food camp for their ice creams, and some of them are in, macro maxing pints. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, consumers care about taste the most, and the whole food ones to date are best. But David didn't have a booth at Expo West because some of their ingredients are not allowed by the standards of the natural products industry. But they had a truck driving around Anaheim with an advertisement of what can only be defined as like a cow on steroids with an image of a pint of ice cream. They're launching into ice cream with the highest protein and the lowest calorie content on the market. It'll be interesting to see how it tastes.
Wow.
Yeah. The permissibility thing is super easy way to kind of think about that. I think it's really useful. Okay. You touched on two things that made me think. One is what other big like brand activations, what were the best, but maybe we get to that at the end. But I think that the other words that you said were real food, which is obviously like Maha and food space, and like, they're like so intrinsically linked right now. It's like a political minefield.
Yep.
Tell me what's going on in the real food space. Like, is this a real thing? Is it not a real thing? Tell me what's going on. High processed foods, go.
I mean, convenience at the end of the day is still what is driving so much of the packaged, CPG industry. But you're finding people trying to reinforce real food. So, meat sticks and beef jerky, arguably still real food, very much like look what Chomps is doing. And they just launched chicken sticks, actually, so diversifying their protein base.
Amazing.
There's a company called Impeccable, and all they sell is a shrink-wrapped, pre-cooked chicken breast.
Yeah, I've seen.
So you just open it up and it's like nature's chicken bar or, nature's protein bar,
ready
etc.
to eat chicken.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm there yet.
So there are some things like that popping up at the show, but I think that real food is making waves. The natural products industry has always been about less ingredients, not more. So it depends on the category. You can look at granola, it's tons of real food and things of that nature. I'm trying to look through some of the images that I have for some good examples because there is a lot of potato chips being made with tallow. That was like all over the trade show. There were probably 7 different brands. And so they're trying to convince you like it's like 2 ingredients, potatoes and tallow, and that's it. There were also all of these date candy companies. So dates wrapped in and robed in different coatings and sour elements. And to me, I think that's hitting on a sweet spot, pun intended, I suppose, of dates being a whole food and you having a whole food based candy or confection like product rather than eating a Starburst, which is not real food. And you see what Fruit Right has done in grocery where they're just taking frozen grapes and coating them in flavors, or what True Fruit did by frozen strawberries and raspberries and then robing them in a little bit of chocolate. So consumers do want real food, but they still want the convenience and indulgence that comes with it. I'm going to try to go to a produce show later this year, and I'm really interested to see what that industry is like because produce just needs better marketing, in my opinion.
Right.
Amen.
To hit on the trends and all that stuff. And we should be eating more real food, but that's not where the money is, unfortunately.
Well, unless you're in the Japanese strawberry business, they seem to be
sure.
doing
Oishi is doing some great things.
Yeah, they figured that out.
They figured that out.
But I think that's another testament to do it well, do the branding well. That doesn't work just because the strawberries are delicious, because you can get delicious strawberries. But I can get delicious strawberries in Europe anyway. I know in the US it's harder.
It's kind of a sad state here, to be honest.
I think that there is an opportunity. It's just hard. I think it's harder for people to justify spending more on what they see to be just a grocery product. I think it's the same with eggs.
Yes.
People struggle with that.
Funny enough, there was a bunch of egg innovation at the show this year. Pre-poached eggs, like Japanese ramen eggs, quail eggs, all these pre-cooked, easy, convenient type executions. But you talking about grocery actually reminded me that frozen is still kind of one of the best places to go find real food. Because you don't need all the preservatives. It's easy and accessible. And I spend a lot of time in places like Costco, and they are moving serious amounts of product within those frozen categories. And it's relatively whole food oriented there.
Yeah. Frozen is an interesting category. It's doing a lot more. I feel like it's getting more interesting.
And more global in its flavors. There were so many ramen cups, the amount of dumpling brands or gyozas or pot stickers continues to increase year over year. Lots of wood-fired pizzas, very premium pizzas. If you've ever been to New York and Roberta's, they now sell a grocery product. There's some technology that's allowing them to basically pre-bake these things, flash freeze it or something, and then you just kind of reheat at home. But it'll cost you $10 to $15. It's still cheaper than a takeout pizza from a great place.
Takeout pizza in LA, that one pie is running you $40. So that's a steal. $10 is 100%. You get yourself. It depends on where you live.
Yeah.
I've had a long-term client called Deep Indian Kitchen. So they, tikka masala and saag paneer and all these great things in frozen. And they just launched a Thai brand at the show called Tem Toa Thai. It's, Thai specific foods. And so you're just seeing, I think, more global flavors making their way in as a means of cutting out the QSRs and the delivery apps that are just so expensive once you plug in all of those fees and other things. So can you get close to takeout from home in frozen? And there seems to be a sweet spot there right now.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Okay, what was the best thing you saw?
There are a couple of really cool pieces of innovation. So there was a brand called Moozy, Moozy. And the backstory is it's a 5th generation dairy farmer. Young guy wants to make milk cool. So he's canning milk. Think of this slim, sleek 12-ounce Red Bull style can. All white, beautiful little word mark. It's A2 milk. It's got protein and all these other things. And it comes in coffee milk, horchata, chocolate milk, and then even a whole milk in a can. But it was just such an interesting expression of milk in its fullest form. And again, milk being a whole food. Coming back to that, dairy's in and very hot right now.
That makes a lot of sense. My son would totally be into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband would be into that. He drinks, he's constantly drinking. The amount of milk we buy is just, and honestly, the packaging that milk comes in makes you cringe. Like it's mostly plastic. Like to get a glass bottle, like you know, like you have to like sell your first child. So it's I think innovation in that space is massive.
Yeah,
It makes sense.
Okay,
I think
that's
so too.
cool. I love
So
that.
that was cool. I do really like all these kind of like date companies. There's one called Dr. Smoot's Candy Dates. They're like fully enrobed, kind of Easter egg colors. I've always been a date fan, and now you kind of get these other flavors with them. It's like quite fun. There's a company called Loomen, Loomen, a brand new water brand that just launched, third-party verified. They're not source specific. They're agnostic to where the water comes from. Everything is about their strict testing protocols, and everything's in glass bottles. So it's about water purity, water minerality, removal of microplastics, and then sustainability in the form of glass and everything else. And that was a really cool and well built and designed brand.
I think that's quite interesting. That to me kind of fits within biological dining of like, no, like it's not just about the source and I get my water here, but it does kind of all of the things.
Yeah. We've talked about coffee. Like there's a coffee brand like Pure Steel came out with like this coffee maker that has like no plastic parts inside. And I think the purity conversation, to me, it's also related to the Whole Foods conversation, and it's part of a bigger kind of, again, like microplastics and all of that. I think it's purity is more interesting to people than clean ingredients. Like I think clean was really big, and now it's less about clean and more about how pure is it, because it doesn't matter if you make a clean product and then you shove it in a plastic bottle and then it cooks on like somebody's shelf for like 8 months and then you're like literally drinking like a credit card. It's like doesn't matter how clean it is.
And I think the other way on top of that, and it's something we're starting to see more in supplements, but it's cool that this water company is doing it, is less reliance on third-party certifications and more primary research and testing of their own products. And I think that that is really critical in long-term belief in brand building when they're sort of like extremely transparent with everything and all of their information and data, and it holds them accountable.
Yeah, I think similarly, like David, like, you know, I have my feelings on like the actual product. Like it's just not for me. Maybe because I don't like things covered in chocolate. So we could start there, but there's bigger issues. But one of the things I think is interesting is that they talk very openly about their proprietary ingredient, and they talk about like they bought the manufacturing plant, and they say all of that, you know, like they're not kind of hiding behind the mystery of like how does David do this, you know?
Right. There's no black box. There's no scenario where there's like an I gotcha moment because they're just kind of transparent with everything. There's another brand called Paco Jones that was selling Mexican ketchup.
These names are amazing. What were they selling?
Mexican ketchup. It was.
Oh my God, I love this.
And what
Paco
is Mexican?
Jones?
Is it like seasoned ketchup, or is it just like
Seasoned and spicy ketchup? It's ketchup you would feel comfortable putting on a taco.
Okay. Well, no one should feel comfortable putting ketchup on that.
That's why it's called hot sauce.
Yes. It's quite an interesting like Venn diagram. It's like hot sauce, ketchup, and salsa is somewhere. Like these, it like sits in the intersection. It was very unique and novel. And you know, if Bachans can sell Japanese barbecue for 400 million, like okay, Mexican ketchup.
For sure, a market. It shouldn't be put on a taco. Like put it on anything else. Put it on your burger and make it a Mexican burger, but don't put it on your tacos.
Yeah. For
You're
sure.
here first.
So those are some of the standouts for me on an individual basis.
And who had the biggest I saw Goodles had like a huge like they were like, I don't know what every TikTok I've seen of it, I actually can't tell what's going on. There's like charms and you have to go find people, and I was like, what is happening?
So they had this whole charm bracelet thing where you pick up the bracelet from them, and then they have partnerships with other brands scattered throughout the entire trade show. And once you find the booth that has this like little Easter egg hidden inside of it, you say, hey, I've got my charm, and they give you the little jewelette or whatever that attaches to it. So it was kind of like a hunt thing that was cool. But the biggest thing I think was they had a booth on both sides of an aisle. So you walk down and you're just surrounded by the vibes. And it was like, I don't know, I'm sure if like it would have been awesome if someone was on mushrooms, because they had this tactile like plush wall where the Goodles brand name was like, I don't even know how to describe it, but almost like
it's an after party piece for sure.
Yeah, where you just wanted to like rub your face, and very tactile and sensorial. It just looked cool and it stood out. And yeah, they had this conveyor belt of product, and that was less interesting. We've seen brands do that, but it was just a unique execution. All these booths are, when you start spending money, are really high gloss, and this one was very tactile, which was unique. Chobani had a really big booth, and they basically built a soccer stadium. So Chobani has a partnership with U.S. Soccer Federation.
Okay.
I think, priming up for it's either FIFA or Olympics or, all the things that are going on within the sort of soccer sporting world. And so they showed off that partnership in a really cool way with this giant stadium. You would walk in, they actually had seats, and it was the one booth where you could just sit. And that's a premium at a trade show like that.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then they had a center kind of stage in the middle where they were doing all their product demos with obviously the Chobani brand. They own La Colombe and then Daily Harvest as well. And so all three brands were kind of in there. And that was a pretty novel and cool booth display.
Amazing. And anyone else who did anything super fun? Like last year, there was a small brand that really like went for it, and that's how they broke out. I can't remember the name of them. It was Pink.
There was yeah. So the one you're thinking of is the Belgian boys, and they went viral because they had the big plushy bag. Right. They went back to the bag model this year. They went for like a Go-Yard style bag.
Okay.
I don't know.
Didn't work.
I don't spend a lot of time on TikTok personally, but I didn't see anyone like lining up. They didn't have security or all the craziness. And there were some other brands kind of doing versions of the bag at the show.
Of course.
What I will say is there's so many after parties and events at Expo West that there were some really cool activations outside of the show. So you guys may be familiar with like Andrea Hernandez and Snaxshots. And she had a party in Venice on Tuesday night, which I went to and attended. And it was like in this like studio loft on 3 floors, but brands that were there demoing all had to have a unique activation. So Monty's like pasta sauce had this like black satanic room with like focaccia and thing. You walked in and you were like, I don't know if I belong here. IQ, which is a hydration brand, was doing
you work with them, I think.
Yeah, they were. So I'm friends with the founder and helped develop the branding and packaging for them. IQ, they had a really cool like kind of air graffiti station where they were doing custom bags and shirts. There was another brand handing out dates that had shirtless butlers that were ripped with a QR code on their chest that you could scan as they're walking around.
Oh my God, I love
because it was about dates and relationships and the food.
Okay,
and so the puns. There was a superfood kid brand called Yummy, IUMY, and they had a partnership with Salt and Straw. So they were crumbling their bars over the top of ice cream as an activation. So they're just like all different types of things. And there was another event called Startup CPG, which basically had almost like 30 brands at an expo style event that couldn't afford to be at Expo yet. So they all had these like tiny little tabletops, but they're all sampling and stuff. And those are really awesome experiences because you're dealing with the founder. They don't have anyone else on their team. You're talking directly to them. You're feeling their passion. You're feeling their hustle. You get to talk to them about their insight, why they started. And to me, those are the richest experiences that you get.
Yeah, that feels really significant because that kind of feels where Expo West started, right? Originally, it was the founders and it was these smaller, it wasn't this big show and to do. There were just kind of a few people there, but it feels like moving off stage is kind of where almost more interest was. Like the Snaxshot's party sounds amazing too.
Snaxshot's party was cool. There's this saying at Expo of like backpack founders, because you will have founders that buy tickets that have backpacks with their product inside, and they're just going around kind of looking for people with certain badges or people that they know and sampling right there on the show floor. They want to be a part of Expo West. The entire community's there. They don't have the funds. But it's like a big thing. And I probably saw, 20 different brands doing that.
Feels like a real big opportunity for Expo West. Guys.
That also feels like an opportunity for a backpack brand or like some like patronage moment where it's like we'll bring together all the backpack founders and like give them better backpacks so that they don't
with insulation and all of this other stuff. I feel
like it's a real moment, like somebody's missing out on that.
That's actually really smart. I mean, Expo West has a sister show now called Newtopia Now, and it's about half the cost. And I've attended that because it's been in my backyard of Colorado for the last 2 years. And I think 50% of the brands that show up there are first-time exhibitors. So they're trying to cater to the
Figure
very
it out.
emerging space and give themselves probably an on-ramp to companies that eventually
Mhm.
graduate into Expo. But I think it's why Startup CPG and Snaxshots are making these efforts, because there is a whole portion of the community that just needs attention and spotlight that can't afford it in the early days.
Right.
All right. And what was the worst thing you saw?
A lot of knockoff brands.
Okay.
People that just aren't trying, like they're just literally ripping off somebody else. There was
Right, duping.
a lot of dupes. So like there was a Spindrift dupe that I think was from Asia. It literally like looked the same, had a similar vibe, and it was just like, you hate to see that. They spend so much time and energy on liquid and all this stuff, and then you show up like that. It just is like, this discredits you right off the bat. I think that there were some lackluster tasting products, and you should never invest in brand if your product isn't taken care of. You know, one that I don't have a problem kind of calling out was Beyond Meat launched a beverage brand. So it's been exclusive online. So they're trying, they dropped the meat technically. It's just Beyond. And obviously they're a publicly traded company, and they are trying to find the next source of revenue because
it's a vegan soda.
So it's a plant-based protein drink.
God.
That's fortified with fiber and some other things. It didn't taste good. And I had written about it when I first saw it, because to me it was so incongruent with what that brand has stood for that it was like, why would they do this? It was a part of a test kitchen and very like LTO style, but they had it at the show and they tried it, and I was like, I don't know who would ever repeat purchase this. So that was probably one of the...
That has to be first. Yeah.
Sounds not delicious. Sounds not delicious.
No. And I think, go ahead, Chris.
No, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, like, you know, with the rise of protein, all of it, I'd argue maybe 80% of it is all animal-based. Like, plant-based has kind of really been quiet for the most part. Koya is one of the few companies that was doing like a plant-based protein soda, and a plant-based protein water at the show that I saw.
Yeah. So. Vegan is way out. Like, forget the vegans, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a cost of goods or supply chain issue, or if it's a taste related thing, because I know sometimes some of these isolated plant proteins don't taste great in isolation, but for whatever reason, animal protein is the big
part of it's also, I think, digestion.
Sure, and amino profile and all that other stuff, but companies can get smart about how they build a complete protein.
Right. Any other great standouts, great brands emerging that we haven't talked about?
Ooh, packaging too. Great packaging.
There was lots of great packaging. I'm about to put out a recap that's just packaging specific. It'll probably be 54 examples. There's too much at the show. It's great. And all sorts of vibes. There was maybe my favorite one was this company called Cream of the West that is selling, cowboy grits and like rolled oats and stuff.
Right.
With these giant, beautiful oil like paintings of Western scenery on the front of their boxes. It was like really refreshing. I'm slowly like building up enough examples of like Western branding. I think it's really in vogue right now. I'm seeing it a lot across CPG, and there's just something, Americana and the Heartland and all of that stuff. But it was showing up at Expo. There was a Tallow. There's several Tallow brands, and they all are kind of leaning into Western and cowboy and rodeo culture. Some of them very expected executions, but some other really good ones. There was a really cool company called Leaven, Leaven, that's basically doing instant wild yeast. And I'm a bit of an amateur baker, and like been having to buy instant yeast at a grocery store, and it's like you have to rip off a sachet from a roll thing, and
it's not a great product. It's
not a great product, no innovation. And this company Leaven, like, fresh branding, really cool vibe, neat messaging. Wild yeast is distinctive. I haven't actually like tried the product out in terms of baking with it, but that was cool and inspiring, quite honestly, to see. And there's a company called Sunshine Buns that just sell fully indulgent, delicious cinnamon rolls. But like cool flavors. There was like a strawberries and cream, and they're frozen, and there's no better for you claim anywhere. It's just like how long it takes in the oven. And that
pendulum
cool.
swing. I love it.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that should be something we talk about too, though, is like there's biological dining, and there's just like, let's have a fridge cigarette and like drink a Coke and
have the vice.
have a donut and like Dutch Brothers. I read like Dutch Brothers' new drink has like
Yeah.
111 grams of sugar. And I was just like, oh my God, this should be a crime. This is like, that's literally giving somebody heart palpitations. Like, that's not good. But there's a market for it and people are not unhappy about it.
Yeah. Did you see a bit of that there?
In terms of
just the indulgence and kind of the other side of that, along with Sunshine Buns, which I love that name so much.
That's a great name. Yeah, there's definitely an undertow of just indulgent products. I mean, think about like Fish Wife in fish, great olive oils and great flavors. The sauce category in general is highly indulgent. Truff, bachan, there's nothing better for you about those things. It just tastes amazing. And then we talked about some of the frozen pizzas, some of these other categories. Sugar is like slowly coming back in vogue, as is like whole wheat and gluten. Sourdough is big, and there are obviously gut benefits to sourdough and stuff like that. But there's I think when you really step back and you study the exits in the CPG industry, there's always some component of indulgence somewhere, I think. So there's a bit of that as an undertow across the really fast growing brands, in my opinion. And even if they're protein focused, like if you're familiar with Built Bar, they have like these sour puff bars now. Like, it's all about indulgence. It's like this pillowy marshmallow taste, and it's not real food, but people are buying it because it's like a really unique, novel eating experience, and quite frankly, an indulgent one in the category where you're sinking your teeth into a bar and it's like getting stuck in your molars.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Very true. All right. And then what else haven't we asked you? What is like, we got like 400 posts, I'm sure, out of this Expo West. So what are we not talking about? Like, I feel like you're the guy who's going to tell me what I didn't think about.
I mean, non-alc was still big at the show. There were a handful of brands. Kratom is not allowed at the show, but there were 2 different companies that had Kava-specific formulations. Kava was seemingly starting to rise, and I remember 7 years ago there were Kava bars popping up in Colorado and New York and all these things. It hasn't quite hit, but I think it's making a resurgence around this NA movement. And like zebra striping, like the events at Post Expo, a lot of people were going between an alcoholic drink and a non-alcoholic drink and just like prolonging their stamina or just, lessening the hangover the next day. So from a social perspective, it felt less crazy than in years past. The Hilton lobby is normally an absolute zoo, and it was like relatively tame this year. I think moderation and, maybe the industry getting older is like, okay, we don't need to do this anymore. More yoga and running clubs in the beginning of Expo.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
GLP-1 was one thing I was expecting to see more of.
Okay.
But didn't.
Nothing. Okay.
There's a supplement side of Expo, and you saw a little bit more of it there. But in the food world, I maybe saw like 3 examples of GLP-1 friendly claims. And the thing that I kind of have this theory that GLP-1 marketing in CPG is primarily being driven by the large strategics and the big food companies. They're the ones that are loudest about making those bets on the future. They talk about them in their earnings calls. Nestle's invested heavily into them. They have a Vital Pursuit line that's just focused on it. You're seeing claims pop up on Healthy Choice by Conagra, Boost from Nestle Health Sciences. There's lots of examples. And in part, it's because they have the formulation and R&D backgrounds to stand up a specific product line to cater to that audience and those needs.
Just for that.
Where entrepreneurial brands, I don't think most of them aren't at the stage where they can just build only around a GLP-1 consumer. Being as small as they are and with the limited resources and wanting to be applicable to many more consumers. So you see in these larger portfolios having dedicated lines without alienating the core. And anyways, I just think it's kind of interesting that most of the entrepreneurial brands haven't quite gotten to that stage yet. But there's a lot of signaling that still happens.
Yeah. I think that's interesting because the protein space is so related to the GLP-1 space.
Exactly.
And so it feels like such an obvious place to just be like, this is a GLP-1 friendly product. I had gestational diabetes, so I apparently know quite a lot about how to manage diabetes. And it's, to me, I was constantly irritated that I wasn't this is not anti-spike or whatever, spike friendly, whatever you want to say. You don't have to say GLP-1. Because I think so many people actually are thinking like that now. So many more people are aware that, just even if you don't have diabetes or you're not on GLP-1s, that glucose spiking is just terrible for you. So I actually think there's so much messaging that somebody who does it right could really do it well. Like, I'm always shocked that Banza didn't like lean into that and just kept going gluten-free. And it's like, no one cares anymore. No one cares about your gluten-free, but you know what they do care about? You're the only pasta that you can eat an entire bowl of and it won't spike your glucose.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think industry is maybe waiting for culture to tell us that it's okay to be overt with GLP-1 marketing, particularly when you think about your marketing mix is one thing, putting it in packaging on the front is another. And you saw what happened with keto. Eventually, it kind of turned into an alienating kind of term, and then it got to keto friendly. And it's like, well, what is GLP friendly exactly? What does that mean? And how much of that is pandering and kind of like, greenwashing from a health perspective? But I think there are companies like Super Gut. They're more in the supplement space that have the GLP-1 booster product and some of these other like fiber and microbiome things that are a little bit more overt and not shying from that opportunity from a pack perspective.
Right. I want to hear more of the supplement space. Like, what was the number one thing that you saw, not GLP related, but like, what's going to be in Erewhon next?
Oh, that's such a good question. Fred? Candidly, I didn't spend as much time on the supplement side because the food side was so big. I'll give you maybe a non-answer in that. I've been to other supplement-specific shows like Supply Side West, which is where companies go to shop for supplements from supplement suppliers. And I think that's such an interesting world because it's what you see there that eventually trickles into mainstream consumerism, like maybe 2 to 4 years down the line. So for instance, like there was a lot of collagen and peptides at the show, but I didn't see that much colostrum. And I felt like with Omra, what they were doing and a lot of advances when I went to supply side and in colostrum sort of like production manufacturing, like it didn't show up as much. Creatine though was all over the show.
Huge. Right.
And it probably will be much bigger next year. Someone joked like this year was Protein West, next year will be Creatine West. And I think you're seeing creatine being embraced by multiple different tribes and audiences. Creatine for women related to women's health, menopause, peri, post, etc. Just for general brain health and benefits. And then people that are just like as a part of your nutritional supplements and related to strength and recovery. And so there seem to be so many different applications. There was a creatine soda. There were a lot of creatine bars that now seem to be popping up. And then you have the creatine gummies and monohydrate powders. It's infiltrating all these different arenas. And there's a cereal brand called Man Cereal.
Yes.
They're putting creatine in the cereal. Yes. What I don't quite understand is the efficacy of these, because I've heard for a long time, it could be urban legend that like it doesn't sit well in liquids, and it can be tough to deal with in foods. And I just don't know what's true or what's not about that from an R&D perspective.
I'm always interested that there hasn't been one in milk because most of the people that I know in the bodybuilding space or like in weightlifting, like milk is an amplifier of creatine. So I've always been so interested that somebody like I was like Fairlife should just come out with a creatine milk. Like they should just dump creatine in their product and start selling it like all day. It's fascinating to me that hasn't happened. There's got to be a reason that maybe it's a manufacturing issue, but that seems to be very confusing to me.
Maybe we need to get off this call and go start that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of entrepreneurial hints in this one, guys.
Yeah.
Yes, we need to go talk to the guy with making the canned milk.
Exactly.
Yes, Moozy.
We got an idea for you.
Yeah, here's the new subline. There were still a lot of greens companies at the show, both on the supplement side. Grunes, big presence this year, giving out things everywhere, and their growth is meteoric. But you've seen there's a lot of companies just commoditizing greens powders and everything and trying to find unique ways. And Huel, a brand from the UK, they got their kind of greens RTD, which is unique because they seem to crack the code on convenience, and it's just like ready to drink right there. So
Huel is, I mean, in Europe, like it's like if you want to get anything like that, it's basically that's the only brand you can get your hands on. So you better like Huel.
And then last thing on the supplement front, I'd say was magnesium. I think magnesium continues to be one of the top performing supplements. I think online and Amazon, and you're seeing that come through in a lot of different applications. Sleep cookies, certainly a lot of beverages, that are focused or calm oriented or other things like that.
So no canned methylene blue. No?
That I was
Nothing?
aware of.
I mean, again, something we need to start to create. There's a lot of ideas in here, guys. There's a lot
Yes,
of
there is.
$1 billion ideas on this pod. I'm just going to say it now.
Honest to God, though, if you can make a pre-made methylene blue in a can that doesn't stain, that's $1 million idea right there.
Or taste terrible, because there's a trope. Like, oof.
You guys familiar with Ketone IQ at all? It's like a ketone shot. Tastes like jet fuel.
Yes. Isn't what's his name is really into that?
A lot of people. I'm not sure who.
Yeah, because his name. You mean like one of the
super famous podcaster, Stephen, the CEO podcast,
Diary of a CEO.
Yes.
Come on, see how I connect that?
Yep, you did it. I haven't had my ketone, so I'm not thinking
He's like Madonna. He's like Madonna. He just goes by Steven.
First name basis.
Exactly. Yeah. He's back that company. Yeah.
But Ketone IQ, they were at the trade show, and their founder's an interesting guy. He kind of created it for the Department of Defense, and now has this commercial consumer-facing application. He's kind of like the pioneer. I haven't seen a lot of other brands fast following that, but he seems to be building up a pretty strong audience and community around it, which is cool to see.
Yeah. I think there's a big, it's interesting watching, Whoop is doing a lot. I'm going to make the connection, but Whoop is doing so much around, showing, how what they're doing is related to, sort of expert, elite performance. And I think that there hasn't really been a food brand, to my knowledge, that has really done that extremely well, really saying this improves your elite performance, on a biological level. And I do think that's coming.
Yep. I think you're right about that.
Amazing.
To hear.
Yeah.
You heard many things here first.
Really. I mean, this is $1 billion podcast. I just want to say, I mean, I think there's also we'll recap it, but the takeaways for investors as far as, just really understanding brand kind of trends that I think you point out. And then I think also this entrepreneurial mindset of here's the checklist, guys.
I think so. There are a lot of founders investors and VCs and private equity all looking for the next thing. And I think a lot of it today comes down to their ability to build community online. Because once you do that, you can create a flywheel of products pretty quickly. And that's why the Liquid Deaths of the world are so scalable, because that content has so much reach and it's not predicated on any one influencer or content creator. It's like faceless. It's about the universe, which I think we'll see more of in the industry.
Yes. I
couldn't go a podcast without saying Liquid Death. So.
Yeah, I have some strong feelings about the future of the influencer era.
Yes.
And I think it's influencers in general is going to be very, very tough in the next few years. And brands that are heavily reliant on them for growth are going to struggle.
All right. A lot of firsts here, guys. We're really unlocking a lot for all of our listeners. Much appreciated. Fred,
thank you.
It's always amazing to chat with you. It's super fun. Thank you.
Thank you guys for allowing me to share.
Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah,
thanks for taking the time. And, I think we're going to have you back to talk about pets.
We will.
So,
yep.
If you're a pet fan or pet food fan or just love Fred, then come back.
Come on back, Mom. Listen to that episode too.
Yeah. Glad you listened, Mom. All right. Till next time, stay curious.
Thanks, Fred. Bye. That was it for this episode of Good Thinking. Don't forget to tune in next week.
If you found this valuable, subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app.
And don't forget to read on Substack for even more insights.
And if you really liked it, drop us a heart. We'd love to hear from you.
Ciao. Until next time.